Okay, let's get started. Alejandro, maybe you could watch the chat and admit people as they come in. Welcome to Burlington in the Classroom. I'm Eric Weiss, an ESL Pathways Advisor here at AFOC. And just a few years ago when I was teaching, we were just using Burlington just for CASA's test prep, test the reading, the listening. Some of us used English in America to practice vocabulary and pronunciation. But just in the last few years, the offerings of Burlington has just kind of exploded. And even more importantly, I'm hearing some very positive feedback from teachers who are using it in the classroom. So in the spirit of sharing best practices and also exposing teachers to technology that's actually working for teachers in the classroom, we have gathered here today. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk basically about using Burlington Core, which is their main textbook series in the classroom, in a teacher-directed classroom for both online and in-person classes. And what we have planned here today is that we're going to start off with Matt Huffine, customer service rep for Burlington English. He's going to give us kind of like the 60,000-foot view, giving us an overview of the vast array that Burlington has to offer. Then I'm going to drop down a little bit and talk about Burlington Core and how it supports the promotionals. And in doing so, I'm going to be talking about how Burlington Core works, talk a little bit about the upper level and the readers, and then we're going to drop very gently down to earth with two wonderful teachers, Mr. Halone and Mr. Vincent, that are going to talk about how they use Burlington in the classroom. Just some housekeeping. If you have some questions, put in the chat. My compatriot, Mr. Alejandro Alcaraz, will be monitoring that, but we'll also be stopping a few times for questions. And I just want to emphasize before we continue, everything that we're talking about here, you can do online or in person. It doesn't really matter. It's just the question of delivery. If you do it in person, you have to have this kind of setup. You have to have a projector, a computer, that computer that's connected to the projector, that's connected to the internet. And if you don't have that, then I want you to contact Martin Hernandez. I'm going to put his his Google form in the chat. And if you have any questions or any problems with technology, I want you to contact him. If you're at Belmont or at Jefferson or satellite locations, it gets a little bit more complicated to do this for you. But where there's a will, there's a way, and we'll definitely work to bring technology into the classroom for you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Matt Huffine, or customer service rep at Burlington, to give us that 60,000-foot view. Matt.
You're on mute, Matt.
Oh yeah, you're muted, Matt.
Ah, classic. Oh my gosh. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, so I'm just going to take about 5 to 10 minutes or so, like Eric said, to give you kind of an overview of what Burlington has to offer. Like Eric said, if you were using Burlington at any point in the past, you might see that every time you log in, there's a lot of new stuff. So I want to focus specifically on some of the new materials that we have, and then some of the other teachers are going to share about more in detail how they're using Burlington. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'll share my sound as well. All right, and this is the login. Sorry, this is the main kind of hub of all of the different tiles that you'll see once you log in, and in the courses tile, we're going to spend some time here. This is where we'll find Burlington Core, but I'm going to open that up and we're going to look at a couple more of the resources. So we'll spend some time later in Core. I wanted to remind you about the civics series that we have called English in America. And there's really good resources in here to support your civics objectives, or also to support citizenship. If you're a citizenship teacher, we've got robust materials there. The career area is called Career Exploration and Soft Skills. So this is designed for students who might not have a career pathway yet, but it kind of gets them started on that journey of finding a field that they're interested in and learning about how to get a certificate or what kind of education they need in that field. So that's called career exploration and soft skill. And then the last one that we have is the digital literacy. So you might have seen this previously as its own tile. We moved using your computer into this format so that you can actually go in and any of these topics, let me zoom in a little bit here. Any of these topics, if your students are struggling with the layout of their keyboard or how to use a mouse or scrolling or whatever it is, this is a really good resource that you can send directly to them. So if I open this lesson on dragging, right, using my mouse to drag, I can, it's
Audio went away.
Yeah. What happened?
I think his internet cut off.
He's frozen.
Oh,
student, anything else in Burlington. So if you're already using links, oops. I
We
think I
lost you
lost you
there.
there for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Give me 1 second. I'm going to switch over to another Wi-Fi. Sorry about
okay.
that,
You want me
everybody.
to continue on something else, Matt, or? Actually, Matt's,
Here we go.
okay.
I think I'm coming back. Sorry about that, everybody. I got a bunch of kids at home doing homework right now, and they're streaming everything. So let me, is everyone still seeing my screen there?
It's still loading.
Okay, great. Let me try again here. So I was, I think I was cut off there when I was mentioning that you can actually send links to these videos just like you can if you're already using links in Core. And I'm happy to show you how to do that if that's a new thing to you. But if you have a student who's struggling with a specific area, in this case, dragging or the mousing or using the keyboard, you can actually send that directly to them. So I just wanted to highlight that as a new feature. And I'm going to go back. I'm jumping back to our main set of tiles. We've also got all kinds of on-demand training if you're ever interested in joining taking part of that in that. We've also got a really new category here called English for Specific Careers. So if any of you are teaching students who are in one career field, or you are teaching a vessel course or anything like that, or an IET course, I'm going to open up here and we've got a whole series of different, and they're brand new, different career courses. So we've got word lists for specific careers. So this talks about a lot of the specific jargon and terminology for these different career fields. So we've also got soft skills. So these courses are for students in these fields that might need a little bit of that soft skill support, communicating on the job, those kinds of things. And the last one, we've got whole courses for specific careers. So students who are interested or maybe already working in these fields, these courses are designed to provide them with language, soft skills, cultural expectations, the grammar and the writing and the speaking capabilities that they'll need in those fields. And as you can see, we've got a whole slew of them. So we've got a business cluster, we've got education, finance, all the way down the line here. So these are super new, and they're really robust courses. So if this is something that you're interested in, or you have students that might benefit from this, I would love to spend more time with you one-on-one to kind of go through some of these courses and kind of orient you and your students as well. So that is a brand new feature, and we've got tutorials. The tutorials are really helpful for things like recording. So if your students are having any trouble with recording their voices on their phones, or downloading the application on their phone, all of that kind of stuff, tutorials is really good. Support, you can, if you notice any glitches or you're having trouble, you can do a support ticket through here, or you can also just email me as well. And I'll put my contact information, if you don't already have it, I'll put that in the chat in just a moment. We've got reports, and this is one thing that if you came to our training that we did a couple weeks ago across the district, we looked a lot at reports and some of the ways that you can look at when your students have logged in, if they've logged in. And this is a really powerful tool to kind of help your students overcome any barriers. Often if you look in there and you see that they've never logged in, it's a good first step is to reach out and say, hey, can I help you log in? Because if they're unable to log into Burlington, there might be some other issues that they're having with technology in general. And then prepare for CASAS. I think we have somebody later in our session today going to talk about that. But this is the same as it's been. It hasn't changed much. It has, however, been fully formatted for smartphones. So if you remember it in the old days, you kind of had to orient your phone a little bit. Now it's been completely reformatted. So every phone and every device will work super smoothly with Prepare for CASAS. And the teacher zone, we've got all sorts of progress and student management and all of that. And Eric is going to take us through the readers in just a minute. And then we've also got some vocabulary practice where students can go in and practice their pronunciation and speaking there. Before we move on, any questions before I hand it back to Eric? Any questions here?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Monica.
Matt, if my students are not consistently using Burlington, are they going to be dropped off? How does that work? Because I was hearing things about if you're not logging in as a student, after a certain point, you're dropped.
That's a great question. So there's two ways to go about that. One way is because we're on an automatic sync system, if a student is absent for 3 consecutive weeks, they're going to be automatically removed, and that's just purely attendance based. Some sites, I know West Valley and Evans and some of the sites that have kind of larger student populations, some of their teachers will actually go in and manually remove students who are just not doing any work or not attending, and that way it if like, for example, a student tells their teacher that they're gonna unfortunately not be able to attend for a while, the teacher will go in and remove them manually, so that frees up a spot for another student. It's really up to you and maybe Chris Shaper to kind of discuss how you want to do that. But the automatic way is purely based on attendance. It's not necessarily Burlington usage. So yeah, great. Thanks, Monica. Yeah, anybody else? Quick question. Hey, Stephen. Hey, go ahead. Oop, I think you got a little bit of echo there. Here, why don't you go ahead and put your question in the chat, maybe, and I'll answer that. All right, anybody else? I think we'll have some Q&A time maybe later on. If any of you think of any questions as we're moving along, feel free to write them down, put them in the chat, and we'll have some Q&A as we go.
Thanks, man.
All right, with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Eric.
Okay, yeah, a couple things. At 3 o'clock, we're going to put a Google form to fill out an exit ticket in the chat. I see some people putting their employee numbers in the chat. Well, there's going to be a Google form for you to fill out to get the DSTR or the STEP advancement. And also, we won't be talking about the CASAS test prep, but I think it's great for your students to do it because it just gives them practice taking a test, which a lot of our students don't have.
Sorry about that. I thought that was going to be on the.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, we have so much. We don't have a lot of time to do this. So Burlington support promotionals. Yeah, my original conception was to go through all the levels and show how Burlington could do it, but that's way too ambitious. Then I thought, well, we just do level 1, but that's too ambitious too. So we're just going to look at a couple I'm basically going to show you Burlington Core and just highlighting some of the stuff that's on the promotionals. For example, the writing prompt writing prompt option 2 is writing about personal information. So let's take a look at Burlington Core. Do you see my screen, the Burlington English screen, or no? Oh, you do? Okay, let me just reshare it anyway. Okay, so we're going to go to courses and we're going to go to Burlington Core. What I really like about this, well, let me just first say that no matter, it goes from basics to advanced, and no matter which book you choose, you're going to get the same menu. Somebody mute Mr. Seaman. Okay. And what you have here is you have the course and lesson planner. That's kind of like the teacher's guide, the in-class lessons. That's the textbook that you're going to be using for the teacher directed part. Worksheets, student lessons, which correspond to the in-class lessons that I'll show you in a second, vocabulary practice. And then you have these tools here that you could track students' progress if students are using this and then uploading their work into Burlington. So let's just take a look at this here. So 2.2. Now, what I really like about this Burlington core is just the structure, the support, and the scaffolding that the students get, so that by the end of this like little chapter, they're able to do something real communication in English. And you know what they're doing here isn't revolutionary, but they just do it really well. You have the get ready, which opens up to the concept and any vocabulary. There's listening here. My computer's a little slow all of a sudden. You have listening, and then you have like a little speaking exercise here. And then you lead up to this exercise here, where a student is asking other students their personal information, and then they're writing it down. Now, if you go back to the student courses, the student lessons correspond to the in-class lessons. So here you have 1.9 from getting started to work. You go to the student lessons, it's the same thing. So I'm going to go to 2.2, where are you from? And this is basically provides the same experience, that instead it's all student directed and something that the student can do on their own. Again, you know, it starts out with some vocabulary. You have like a listening exercise. And then you have like this little role play at the end, which is kind of cool. The student can record their voice. You could hear the dialogue played out.
What's your name?
Ara Park.
Or you could choose to be one of these characters and then record your voice and be part of the dialogue. So let's say I want to be Ara. I'll choose Ara here. And then I'll just record my voice by clicking on the little microphone. Ara Park. Oh, wait, hold on. Ara Park. Try it again here. Ara Park. Okay. Ara Park. This happened. Ara Park.
Eric, I think with the Zoom,
Okay.
I tried to do it, and I didn't work.
Sometimes there's a little bit of if your signal is kind of in and out, it delays a little bit when you're recording.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
that's what's happening. So, but
Yeah.
basically, it's a great tool to, a student can hear their voice as part of the dialogue, and they compare their voice to what the native speaker is saying. So I just think it's a great little tool. Okay,
Can I add something there real quick, Eric?
Sure.
If you go back, I just want to show everybody kind of a smoother way to navigate. If you're in one of those courses that you were just in,
Oh, just click the arrow. Is that what you're doing?
actually, it's even easier than that. If
Okay.
you go back into the student lesson that you were in,
Okay.
if you want to go between the teacher's in class lesson and the student lesson, you can actually go horizontally, and you don't have to go back and navigate. If you just do you see the vertical ellipses over in the top right? Yeah, right under the house icon up in the top right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That vertical, yeah, like a snowman icon, I guess we call it.
Right.
If you
Okay.
click on there, you can go to any part and it'll go horizontally. So if you're in the
I don't know
student
if you guys
lesson,
can see the drop down menu here, but yeah, that's great. So then
yeah, and then you go to the in-class lesson, it'll take you right to not only the same lesson, but it'll take you to the same topic.
that's great.
So if you're doing a listening activity, it'll take you to the student's version or teacher's version, vice versa.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. No, thanks for jumping in there.
No problem.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my. I'm just going to go back to this. So, okay, so let's just take another look here. So writing option 2 is, writing option 3 is about family. I'll take a look at writing option 4. Let's go to the low beginning. So Burlington Basics, it's kind of like 1A-ish. I'm going to go to low beginning. I'm going to go to 3.8. Because this writing prompt is talking about writing about what you do at work or at home. And again, I think it's a little bit slower on Zoom. But again, the structure here is really great. It starts with a concept here, introduces a concept, and then in the analyze portion, you analyze the model of what the student is actually going to produce at the end. Here's the model here, writing about Oscar's job skills, and then it finally gets to the final thing. And then here's some great. Wait, let me go back to here again. And here's some great scaffolding that the student has. They can choose here these sentences for it to answer, but then they can also add to it. And then you have the final activity here, which is a student working with another student or in a group writing about job skills. Now, if I were doing this in class, even though the student lessons are something the student could do on their own, I would go to the student lesson in class. So I would have them work in a group or with another partner and write something like this. Then if you go to the student lesson, I'm using Matt's way of navigating now. And then I would show like some of this scaffolding here. Then the student lesson, instead of writing about another student, you're writing about yourself. So, which is, part of the writing test. So I would go to the student lesson and project this and have, granted, given that there's enough time in class, have them write about themselves. Any questions? We're going to have Mr. Halone and Mr. Vincent talk a little bit more about it. I want to show this as well.
Eric, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Sure. How is everybody? No, my question, what I was going to say is on that writing that you just showed, you didn't say after they write, you might mention that they can hit save to portfolio, and that way you can read their writing.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I was thinking more in class where they're actually like writing on pen and paper. But yeah, when you get to the student lessons,
their writing samples, you can.
Right. So you see the student view, they don't have access to the in-class lessons. They just have access to the student lessons. So yeah, if you were doing this class and you came to the student lessons, then you could have the student in class write it and then upload it and have it be part of a portfolio that you could use, when you assess them at the end, since we're taking a more holistic approach towards assessing people. Any questions? We're going to have Mr. Halone or Mr. Vincent go more into Burlington Core in a second, but does anybody have any questions so far? Or no? Okay. Burlington readers. When I was teaching beginning and intermediate, I used real true stories. I loved it. My students loved it. They also have real true stories for high intermediate. So when Burlington came out with readers, I was very intrigued. I was wondering how students would take to it. And then lo and behold, one morning I was called into AFOC to sub for a level 4 to 6 class. It's one of these morning classes that are 4 hours. So I thought, we have some time to look at some of these readers. And after the 10 o'clock break, I had students log into it. It was an advanced class, so most of the students knew how to log into Burlington. And I said, choose a book that we want to explore. And we decided to explore Gandhi. So let's go over to Gandhi here. So I'm going to the main menu again. I'm going to choose readers. And I'm going to choose Gandhi. And what's great about this is that not only you can read it, but there's also kind of like an audiobook version so you can follow along, which is very helpful for ESL
Chapter 1.
Students.
The Early Years. My name is Mohandas Kuramchand Gandhi.
or if a student is reading it and they're not sure about, like, let's say they want to know how to pronounce this, you can just click on a
When
sentence.
I was small, my family moved to Rajkot. Every year, she fasted through the 4-month rainy season.
So, but when I did this in class, I didn't play this. What I did, oh, and also I just want to show you also that there's like every, every like 8 or 9 pages or so, there's like a little reading comprehension activity for students to do. But when I did this in class, I had students come up to the board and I had students come up to the board and read. So I'm projecting this in class. The students, some of the students were logged in, but not all of them were logged into Burlington. And if there was a word like fast, you know, one of the students thought that meant that somebody was accelerating. But we also talked about, you know, European colonization, the history of India, the Hindu religion, and you know, nonviolent, peaceful protest. And you know, I didn't plan to spend 2 hours reading, discussing Gandhi, but that's what we did. And the students were engaged the entire time. I don't know if we could have gone for another 2 hours, but on the ride home, I was thinking, so it's a great in-class activity, but I was also thinking, you know, what could students do beyond that? Of course, there's papers. You know, we're talking about Gandhi, we're talking about colonization. Maybe each student could pick a country to write about. And of course, I would model it. We would do one together and it would follow a certain structure. And then it would be great to put on a bulletin board for accreditation next year. Also, it's opportunities for project-based learning. That was something that Josh Ike was highlighting at the ESL graduation ceremony a couple of weeks ago. Just briefly, project-based learning is when you're taking what you're learning, you connect it to the real world in some way, and the student does a project that, I don't know, seeks to change or educate or whatever. And a project-based something for Gandhi would be having the student look into their community or the world and what they would like to change and what kind of Gandhi-esque gesture or protest that you could plan to that would adhere to his principles. So just want to talk about upper level too. Let's go, because I was really intrigued by the writing that they have at the end of every unit in Burlington Core. I think it's excellent. And I would have loved to have had it when I was teaching writing in the intermediate level. And then lo and behold, one morning I was called in to hold a level 4 to 6 class until a sub arrived. And I was like, okay, let's bust out the Burlington. At the end of every unit, they had this thing on writing. And as I said before, what I like about Burlington is the support and the scaffolding that goes into it. It's particularly excellent in the writing. Like seriously, it's some of the best stuff I've seen. And I would be using this a lot if I were teaching, at least from high beginner on up. I would be using these writing things a lot. Just because when I taught writing, one of the things I learned is that students really you have to afford your students a lot of opportunities to write. And when you afford them the opportunities, they have to have structure that's appropriate, that's effective, and it's scaffolding. And that's what I feel like Burlington does. So that morning, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking, let's just get this set up before the sub arrives. So I turned on my projector, I connected to the internet, I pulled this up here. This is like the first writing thing for the first unit. We write a description of a person. And then I asked a student, okay, somebody who wants to read the first slide here? How about you, Miss Bronstein?
Okay, in this lesson, you're going to write a description of a person. You will ask and answer questions, use descriptive adjectives, give examples to support your description.
Thank you, Miss Bronstein. So then I just went through it with the class like this. Okay. Again, in the analyze portion, if I can get to it, they have the model there, and that what you analyze the final product here that you're going to write. Now, Miss Hilton, at that point, I just set them up, and then the sub came in, Miss Hilton. And I just kind of like said, okay, I got to get to the ESL office. Here's Burlington Core. Go at it. She never really had anything to do with Burlington Core before. Miss Hilton, are you here? Miss Hilton,
Yes, I am.
would you like to say what happened next or what your experience was using this?
Yeah. Yes, of course. So I was subbing for the class, and when I got to the classroom, Mr. Wise had the Burlington open. Burlington is not totally new to me, Mr. Wise. I had a slight introduction with Matt Hoffine some time ago, but yes, you had the screen open for me and ready and going, and the students had to write 2 paragraphs, descriptive paragraphs, that is. And the lesson on Burlington took us step by step on how to construct the paragraphs. And I remember one student, Isabel, she wrote about, well, they were supposed to choose someone to write about. So each one chose a classmate. And she wrote actually 2 paragraphs. They were to write 2, most of them wrote 1, but of course it was a level, 4, 5, and 6. Right. And yeah, so like I said, the Burlington took us through the steps, gave examples of adjectives, and she did a pretty good job, actually. So Mr. Wise threw the ball when I got in. I took it and ran away with it, and I'm ready to do Burlington for my class, level 2A and B as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, Miss Hilton is a very capable teacher, so I knew that the students were in good hands when I left. And I just came, but I did come up like 45 minutes afterwards, and the students were writing. And here's one, and here's one example.
Eric, real fast. This is Walter. Before you continue, that what you were showing us right now was the student, right? The teacher's version, the teacher's guide.
Exactly. So the students version, yeah. So that in the all class version, you're writing about somebody else. Does anybody want to guess what the students version is? Who you write about?
Is it yours?
Yeah, that's right. You write about yourself.
Yourself, right? Yeah.
So
If
again,
Okay.
I would use this also in class, maybe, have them write about yourself. Now this is what, so Miss Hilton mentioned Isabel. This is what one student, Andre, wrote about Isabel. And he's level
Actually,
4.
Isabel, Mr. Wise. Isabel wrote about Andres.
Oh,
So that
Andres
was
wrote
her-
about Isabel. Okay, so he's
Oh,
level.
yes, exactly.
So I came up like, I don't know, what is a half hour, 45 minutes after I left. They were already writing, and this is what Andre wrote. And he's level 4. I think this is pretty good for level 4. And, I mean, Miss Hilton's a great teacher. Mr. Young, whose class it was, is a great teacher. But also, I think Burlington did a great job in setting up the students so they can write, and it's difficult to do this. When my very first lesson plan, when I was teaching writing, it basically involved me getting up in front of a class and saying, okay, write. And I got horrific results from it. So,
Eric,
yeah.
approximately how long does it take to get through one of these lessons when you're modeling for the students in the green section, would you say?
I don't know. What would you say, Miss Hilton? Do you have like an estimate, you think, or? I mean, I think the whole thing was it like a little over an hour to have them go from the beginning to writing, you think, Miss Hilton?
It was about that, maybe a little over an hour, yes.
Yeah, maybe a little over an hour, hour and a half, maybe, or I don't know.
Because it gave various examples, to construct the paragraphs, and it took time.
Yeah.
So maybe a little over an hour. I would say.
Okay. Yeah, but they were writing. I was very impressed. And with that, I guess, does anybody have any other questions before we continue, or? Okay. Well,
Would
now
have been nice, Mr. Wise, to show what the other student wrote, Isabel.
Yeah, she wasn't there when I came up, so I just thought about using students' work this morning. So I just came up to class, and Andre was there.
That was a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Halone. His students love him, and his students revere him. Here he is, Zooming. He teaches an online class in the morning and night. Mr. Halone, I'm going to throw it over to you right now.
Okay, Mr. Wise, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, let me share the screen here.
If you co-host, just make sure you're in the show.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Halom, when do you usually use Burlington? I mean, do you use it in you teach morning, you have a 4-hour class in the morning and then 2-hour, 45-minute class at night. When do you use Burlington?
I use Burlington after the break at the 10:15 class. I have not used it in the morning yet, between 8 and 10. And the reason I do that is because some students leave at 10 and some students, and most of the students stay. So I want to give them a different environment. And for myself too, it's a different way of teaching too. So, oh, let me see. I'm trying to share here, but I'm not sharing. Am I sharing?
No.
No. Okay. Where is it? Where is my? Wow. Here. Yes. Okay. And I started using Burlington for the first time this trimester, even though I wanted to do it before, but I didn't know how to do it. So I kind of got some introduction from Dana, and he helped me. Well, he showed me how to use it, and since then I liked it. It's good. So and the students, they seem to like it too. Okay, let me see. Share. Why is it? Okay. Okay, let me see. Share. Okay, yeah, there we go. So I need to change here. Okay, let me change new share. Okay, this is it. Okay, am I sharing the Burlington screen now?
Yeah,
yes, okay. So I'm going to start with, okay, this is education. So, well, I just want to talk about some of the things here because in my class, since I have beginning law A and beginning law B, I have to use all of the fields here from 1, 2, 3, all of them, okay? But I'm not going to talk about all of them. So I just want to pinpoint some of the things that I think are, well, someone might want to hear about. And this is, the first one is the listening. Okay, I'm going to play a little bit. So,
good morning. Can I help you?
Yes, please. I want to register for an English class.
Okay. What's your name?
Hamza Nassar.
Nice to meet you, Hamza. My name is Mary Baker. I'm a school counselor.
Nice to meet you, Mary.
okay, so this is a sample of one of the listening exercises that I really like to do with my students because after not only that they have to listen, I know that most of my students, they don't have that much listening practice outside the school or outside the classroom, I should say. And so not only that they have to pay attention to the listening, but they have to answer the questions, which means they have to be able to understand what the speakers are saying. Okay, that's the speaking part, the listening part. And then we also have the speaking part here. This is right. Okay, so here are some dialogues in which the students have the chance to practice the vocabulary that we learned in the lesson. And they also have a flexibility in changing some of the words. For example, here to some students that are in the morning, they say a morning class. Some students are in the evening, so they can say an evening class. Change the day, change the time, etc. So this is a good dialogue for the students to they can change information, not just stay with the same dialogue all the time.
And Mr. Alon, do you have them take a picture of this when they use it if you're doing this
okay
online?
Well, yeah, first I forgot to mention that. First, I practice with them usually in Zoom. Zooming is not the same as in the classroom. So usually I have to practice. I have to be the counselor one time with students or a student because it's not the same. And then I have to be the student. And then they can practice in pairs, first for the whole class, and then in the breakout rooms. When they go to the breakout rooms, they have to take a picture of this before they do that. So that they, or some students actually, while we're practicing, they are very fast writing, so they copy the dialogue, which is great because they can also practice writing. Okay, let me go to the next one. This is going to be getting getting a job. Okay, 6. Okay, 6. Okay, this is number 2. Okay. Okay, here, this lesson, it's about adverbs and expressions of frequency. This is the students really enjoyed this section here. Well, we have always, never, how often, once a week, sometimes, every Monday, etc. So here, I like the introduction of this vocabulary here because it's a dialogue, and the students don't have a problem assimilating the information. Then we have, so this lesson uses these frequency words all along. And then we get to, let me see, practice 6. Okay, let's see. Practice, okay, 6. Okay, yeah. Here we have some other dialogues that they can use the frequency words with these dialogues, with these phrases here, but they have to make up the sentence. And of course, first we do it together, and then the students do it independently. And most of the times, in my case with my students, they have to write the questions and the answers, or in this case, well, they can actually write the sentences. Next, we also, area job 3. Okay, let me see. Do I have to go back? Okay, yeah. Oh yes, this is 3. Okay. Getting a job 3. Is that the one? Okay, yeah. Okay, so and here we have, let me see. Okay, so the reading part is great too. In this case, these short paragraphs, I like them too because, and the students like them because I ask one student at a time to read one dialogue, one paragraph. Then another student reads the next one, and another student reads the next one. So they take turns reading. After reading, they also have to answer the questions. So, which means they are practicing reading and reading comprehension at the same time, which is great. Our students need a lot of that. Well, all my students need a lot of that because everything is new for them. Okay, that's the reading part. We can actually listen to the paragraphs anyway. I'm going to play a little bit.
Is a security guard. He likes to work at night. I work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Then I go to sleep. My apartment is quiet. My wife is at work and my daughter is at school.
Okay, so you can see they can listen to another person other than me in the classroom, and they have to answer the questions. Okay, next okay, let me see, getting a job. Oh, that's the one. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next one. This is money. And this is listening. Okay, part 5. Okay, 5. Let's see, 5. Okay, this is another section that is great for my students. They can also listen to the person speaking, and they have to they have to listen for keywords, which I find is great because my students really have a hard time sometimes getting that. And sometimes we have to play them a lot. Some of the students are able to get it the first or second time, but not too many. So these are great exercises. Listening for keywords. Okay, this is a complete, this one is a complete, I'm going to play a little bit, not too much.
You don't have any bread. Come to Shop and Go. You will love our low prices.
Okay, well, the speaker goes on, and then at the end, they have to answer these questions according, they have to listen for the keywords again, which is important. And the students like this, even though it's hard for them, they like this. They want to do that. Okay. Next, okay, speak 9. Then we have the dialogue again, the speaking part, and we can actually listen to that dialogue
Where
again.
do you go food shopping?
At Shop and Go.
Why do you go shopping there?
Okay, so we can listen to the dialogue. The students can practice listening and repeating the dialogues, and they can actually practice with each other or with myself. Then finally, I'm going to go to a lesson that, okay, this is something different that we can all think about sometimes. That, well, when you see this, at first I started asking the questions to the students. I said, how often do you eat bread? And the student would say, I eat bread every day. The next one, how often do you eat ice cream? Okay, let me, wait a minute. Oh, well, ice cream is here. So how often do you eat ice cream? And then we would say, I never eat ice cream. Those are the two options that we have here. And
Could you scroll down, Mr. Halone? We can't see the whole thing.
Oh, you cannot see the whole thing?
Yeah, scroll down a little bit.
Oh, okay. Oh, there we go.
There you go. Yeah, never eat.
Okay. I don't know why my screen is so small. Okay. Okay. So, so there's, okay. So I noticed that the students, when they were answering the question orally at first, they would hesitate too much. So I figured, and that was a very good exercise too. Oh, here it is. Okay. That I figured that the students actually needed to write the questions and write the answers too. And then it came to my mind that maybe we should add more words here because they only see every day and never. And most of them were answering every day or never. And I said, well, remember that we learned more words before, more frequency words. And so I decided to add more words. And I asked them, okay, and that was a good exercise too.
Sometimes.
Yes, and they say sometimes, okay, like sometimes, okay. Another student said, well, I said, do you remember another word, a frequency word that we were using? Another one said always, okay. Another one say seldom. We at first it's funny. Seldom is a funny word. They were so glad to hear that one. Once a week. Okay. Once a week. Twice a month. Okay. So students were coming out with the words that we learned before. Once, twice. Twice a month. Okay. Okay. Once a year. Etc. Okay. So then after writing all of this vocabulary here on the side, then I said, okay, now do me a favor. Think about your real life situation and write the answers to the questions with each of these items here, okay? And this I was amazed because this was a great exercise for everyone. When I asked them the questions, then they were not using only never or every day. They were using all of this. Well, there were more, of course. So everybody was more using more of their real life situation, which I was glad to hear that. So, and then after I practiced with them, then I put them in the breakout rooms to practice all the questions with and answers with their students, with their classmates, I'm sorry. Okay, and I guess that's about it for me.
Well, that's great. And as Mr. Hello noted, he found out about Burlington or was encouraged by his across the hallway neighbor, Mr. Dana Vincent, who we'll hear from now. Mr. Hello, could you please unshare the screen?
Yes. Okay. Okay. Let me, oh, here.
And another thing I'll say about Mr. Vincent is that Mr. Shaper came up to him and said, hey, you know, your students are really using Burlington a lot. And he had no idea because he was using it for in-class lessons. And then the students just on their own started using Burlington when they got home. Dana, I'll give you now Mr. Dana Vincent.
Am I muted? Yes, hello. Okay, just make this quickly. Yeah, I was just want to say the things that I really like about Burlington. Of course, the core is really nice. I use the purple for my level 3, and I use the blue for my level 4, 5, and 6. Because for some reason, I find this advanced level a little hard to teach in a group. I don't know why. I think it's because a lot of the questions are for individuals as opposed to about the lesson. It's more about yourself. Anyway, what I like a lot, I do what Mr. Halone does. After the break is when I usually do Burlington.
In the morning, right? Not
in the morning, because I have 4-hour class. So after the break, just to break things up and to start something new. And I use it basically as review and, you know, quickly introduce lessons, because a lot of this is not really in depth, you know, you have to put more stuff into it, but it's good. It's a good practice. So I'll start from the beginning, like when my first week of class, and start doing each lesson and work my way through the each number, whatever. So a lot of it's good review, and we do a lot of the thing I really like is the reading, because it's pretty natural. It's not too difficult, but it's not like simple chill. Oh God, mine's not working now. Okay, now my internet's too slow. Sorry. Anyway, you do what he did. You can listen to the stories like this. This man says whatever.
Isn't that women's work?
So she's reading the story.
When Rodrigo decided to become a nurse.
I think it's good because they get to hear somebody else reading to them. They get to read it and listen to the pronunciation of the words. And then we go back and have students read each paragraph. I have students read each paragraph, then we answer the question. Often they'll say you have to read it again or listen again, but I find the students don't usually have to do that because they do understand it. It's not that it's easy, it's just understandably. It's very understandable. So usually what I do, we read it, and I do this as a group, as a class. I don't have one person answer usually. I'll just, we'll go over the first one, what's the first answer, and people shout out whatever. When there's only 10 or 12 people, it's not a real big problem. In the night class, when there's 30 people in the class, yeah, sometimes we have to make sure we wait on the people. We have to call on people. Anyway, that's a good thing. But the other thing that I like all their listening things, because the students don't get enough listening until we have this. There really wasn't very good listening. That side-by-side listening is not good. It's not, just not good. Here's the thing I really like are the videos, because you see real people, not her, real people. This is one of my favorite ones. The interview. So they show somebody doing a very good interview. Mario doing his interview. But as you watch it, you see real people actually doing something. It's not like, you know, of course it's.
Hello, I'm Liz Hollis. I'm Mario Silva. Nice to meet you. Please have a seat.
Okay, so we see Mario, and you can see how well he speaks and how
So,
well he's
I'm
dressed and
looking for a
everything.
salesperson. Tell me, Mario, have you ever worked in sales? Yes, I've been a salesperson at Maxi Close since 2017.
And then they show you the bad person. So it just makes me laugh. So to give you like a good perspective, students enjoy these videos and they can answer the questions very well because they understand it.
How do you do? I'm Liz Hollis. Please have a seat. So we're looking for
Anyway.
a salesperson. Have you ever worked in sales?
So you listen to the thing, I think it's very good because you get to watch it and listen to real language and real people really speaking. And the other thing I like to do is that some of them, they have games at the end. And on these games where it says review games, you start the game. This one's the spin the wheel game. You can put them in teams, but I don't put them in teams. I just, especially when I have a smaller class, I just call on people one by one and I'll say, you know, let's see, who do we have here? We'll pick on Monica again. Monica, this is your question. And then I'll give her the.
Spin the wheel, spin the wheel.
And then she has to answer.
Where's Vanna White when you need her?
He is very
He's obsolete now.
polite. Polite is the right answer.
And then he gives her points and stuff. But, you know, people don't care about the points. They just like playing the game. They like answering and, you know, and they do it individually. So it's fun. It's really fun in the upper levels because the questions get a little harder. People have problems. Anyway, is there anything else, Eric, that we wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. In fact, it's 4 o'clock. We're ending perfectly on time. I just pasted the exit ticket that you fill out to DSTR step advancement. There's also a couple of questions there about technology. Does anybody have any questions about any of this?
Yeah, I want to ask Mr. Vincent a question. For the students who don't have a computer, are they able to use the phone with Burlington? In other words, the writing is what I'm thinking about, right? Is it optimized for writing as well on the iPhone or the?
I don't know about the phones, how well that works on the phones. Matt can tell you, because I think they've improved.
Absolutely. Yeah, they definitely can. They just need to download the Burlington app, and then they can, all of the activities are formatted for their phones. Mm-hmm.
But somebody asked too, when you said quickly, when they write on their student, if they write, you know, the lesson on the writing thing, and then they save it to portfolio, you can go in on your Burlington and check you can look at their writing. You just go under their name and you find them, and then you can read what they actually wrote. You can't really correct it, but you can make comments.
Yeah, you can give feedback. I put a guide to how to do that in the chat. So if you look at my portfolio guide, you can look at how you can go back and see what students have written and provide feedback.
As I said earlier in the meeting, I've noticed, I was just looking at my hours before, some of my students have like 6 hours logged in over like just a few days. And these are students who are in class every day for 4 hours and they're doing this at home. So, I mean,
Do you use Burlington for in-class, Gary?
Not too much. I mean, I show them, like, I show them highlights of it. Like I show them different, and I'm doing this at night too. Like I'll say, I'll make sure everyone knows how to log in on their phone,
Right.
that everyone has their email and their password. And if they don't, I help them make a new one. Then I have them download it on their phones. I also, because you always have that, you have students who are quick and students who lag if you're giving them an in-class assignment. So if they finish something before the rest of the class, rather than sit there and twiddle their thumbs, I've trained them to open up Burlington and do independent stuff. And they're logging in a lot of hours doing it.
You know, I want to say one other thing. When, what he said is good too, is that once we do first time we do Burlington, we tell them how to get into Burlington, and then people just seem to be interested because they know they can get into it. Something they can do at home. It's fun. They like it. Like I told you, my students said, this is so much better than Schoology.
Oh boy. Well, we're
I've had that
keeping it real.
comment many times, many times.
That means you have to do better stuff on Schoology.
Matt, I just want to, while we have you here, when I was with Mr. Young's class, some students were having problems with the SSO logging into Burlington. They had success using the old way, which is LA, and then their student number. So I just thought I'd throw that over to you. They had, they couldn't do it, but then they.
Did they forget to put the dates in? Did they forget to?
I don't know, but they were having problems with it.
They might, yeah. I actually put into the chat there a guide.
I saw
we actually have a Spanish version of that too, if that would be helpful. But that is a step that sometimes students forget to add, especially if they're using the mobile app. So it kind of gives a clear frame by frame walkthrough of how to log in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is anybody having problems filling out the form, accessing the form?
No. Mr. Wise, the form will not open up, not for me.
It worked for me. You have to sign in with your LAUSD account.
You have to be logged in on your
Yes.
Google account through LAUSD, not your personal Google account.
Not giving me access at all.
I'm sorry, Matt, to interrupt you.
No, not at all. But to answer your question, yes, students can still log in. Technically, the traditional way with LA and student ID number. I've been advised to encourage everybody to log in with SSO. So I'll just say that and leave it there.
Yeah, here, Mr. Alcaraz. The students that I have helped with the Burlington, that's the thing that they're forgetting to include days at the beginning. So that's big factor.
Yeah,
Just, make sure that mention that they need to put days that Burlington English .com, and obviously don't help them download the app.
Oh, Matt and Eric. So for those of us who may need a little more hand holding, will you guys be doing any in-class demos? I think I saw something about being able to request in-class demos.
Absolutely. Yeah, Mr. Castro, absolutely. If you'd like me to come and join your Zoom class, unfortunately, I can't visit on site yet. But if you'd like me to come join your Zoom class, reach out to me and let me know when you're meeting and your Zoom link and all that. And I'm happy to come and spend about 20-30 minutes helping everybody log in and download the app and navigate and all that good stuff.
So we meet in person.
Chris
Okay.
Oh, Chris can come. Chris is more than willing to come down to Jefferson. So, or
Perfect.
Belmont. I'm sorry. So write Chris and tell him you want to come by, and he will.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm still trying to fill out the form, Mr. Wise.
That was great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you, Monica.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Great job, presenters.
Thanks, Ms. Rodriguez.
Exciting stuff.
That's great, Mr. Holon, Mr. Vincent. Excellent.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Practical things, which is what we need.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
And thank you, Mr. Weiss, for making this possible.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez.
And all the participants for coming. Hopefully we can get them all to use it, okay? And get our colleagues to use it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All righty.
Oh,
Who's LAUSD user? Hello? I wonder who that is.
I think it's the person who's observing me.
Oh, no, I think it was Miss Tyler.
Yeah, Miss Tyler.
She was signed up.
Oh, you saw her name?
Yes.
Huh.
All right. Well, thank you all for participating one way or another. Matt, thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And all of us, that's great. So you've got lots of support. Our key teachers, Mr. Polon and Mr. Vincent, as well as the advisors around. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.